Have you ever had that feeling that a choice was kind of made for you, even when you technically had options? Well, that's not just in your head. Our decisions are being shaped all the time by these invisible designs around us. It's a concept called choice architecture, and it's one of the core ideas from the book Nudge. Today, we're going to break down exactly how it works, pulling directly from the principles in Chapter 5.
So let's just dive right in with a super simple question you've probably faced a million times. You walk up to a door. Do you push or do you pull? Seems obvious, right? But what if the design of the door itself is sending you the completely wrong signal?
So this is a real story from the book. At this university, there was this big double door you had to go through to leave a lecture hall. The only way out was to push, but the doors had these giant, really nice wooden handles on them. Handles that just scream, "Pull me!" So what happened? Almost every single student would walk up and yank on them. Their automatic system, that fast, intuitive part of our brain, just saw the handle and took over. It's such a perfect, simple example of how a bad design can lead all of us to make the wrong choice, again and again.
And this brings us to a really, really powerful idea. The person who designed that door, whether they thought about it or not, was a choice architect. And the crazy thing is, they are everywhere.
So what is a choice architect? Well, it's anyone who structures the context in which we make decisions. Think about it. The person who lays out the school cafeteria, they're a choice architect, influencing what kids eat. Your doctor, when they explain your treatment options, yep, they're a choice architect too. Even the person designing a website's menu is guiding your clicks. They're all creating the environment for your decision.
Okay, this slide is just a brilliant illustration of good versus bad design, using a concept called mapping. Just look at that stovetop at the top. You've got 4 burners in a square, but the knobs are all in a straight line. It's so confusing. You're always doing that little dance of guessing which knob turns on which burner, right? Now, look at the 2 designs below. They are so much better because the layout of the knobs maps perfectly to the layout of the burners. It's intuitive, and that's the whole point. Good choice architecture is for real, fallible humans, not for some imaginary, perfectly logical econs.
All right, let's move on to one of the most powerful and maybe one of the sneakiest tools in the choice architect's entire toolbox, setting the default option.
We humans, we are creatures of inertia. We have this incredibly strong tendency to just stick with the status quo, whatever is pre-selected for us. Think about the default settings on your new phone or that magazine subscription that automatically renews. Because it takes zero effort, our lazy automatic system just goes with the flow. And just like that, we end up with the choice that somebody else pretty much made for us.
And the power of defaults can be so huge that it can become really controversial. For example, in the US, there was a law that required schools to share student contact info with military recruiters. But the big question was, how should that work? An opt-in system means the information is private by default, and parents have to take an action to share it. An opt-out system means it's shared by default, and parents have to take an action to stop it. And both sides knew whichever way they set that default was going to be the outcome for the vast majority of people. That's how powerful it is.
So, okay, beyond just picking a default and calling it a day, what else can a good choice architect do? Well, they can anticipate our very human flaws and design systems that actually help us navigate them better. It's all about designing for our predictable mistakes.
One of the biggest principles of good design is to just expect error. A smart system doesn't assume you're perfect. It knows we're all going to make predictable mistakes, so it builds in a safety net. For example, have you ever done this? Walked away from an ATM and suddenly realized you left your card sitting in the machine?
Of course you have. It's a classic post-completion error. See, once you finish your main task, getting the cash, your brain just checks out and you totally forget the step before that. So what did the choice architects at the banks do? Something brilliant. They just redesigned the process. Now, a lot of ATMs force you to take your card back before they'll spit out the cash. They design the error right out of the system.
And here's another super simple, just genius example of an error-forgiving design. That little plastic strap that connects your gas cap to the car, it probably costs, a few pennies? But it completely eliminates the mistake of leaving your cap at the gas station. It's such a cheap, incredibly effective little nudge.
And it's not just about physical things either. In our digital lives, Gmail's little pop-up is a perfect example of expecting error. The system sees you type the word attachment, but didn't actually attach a file, and it gives you a gentle little poke before you can make a mistake. It's fantastic.
All right, next up is another huge principle: giving good feedback. Think about it.
How are we supposed to make better choices if we don't know the consequences of the ones we're making right now? Clear, immediate feedback is absolutely critical for learning.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. A digital camera gives you amazing feedback, right? It shows you the picture you just took instantly. But the very first models just felt unsatisfying because they were totally silent. So you know what designers did? They added a completely fake shutter click sound. That sound gives you zero actual information, but it gives our brain that satisfying little confirmation that, yes, the action is complete.
So how can we help people with those really complex choices, like trying to pick a cell phone plan out of a million options? The book suggests a really cool system called Recap. First, the government would require all companies to record their fees in a simple, standardized format. Then they'd have to evaluate your actual usage and send you a report each year. And finally, you could easily take that data and compare plans on other websites to see who would have given you a better deal. It's all about making a complicated choice understandable.
Okay, finally, let's talk about the one thing economists always love to talk about: incentives. And while good choice architecture is about more than just incentives, they definitely still matter. A lot.
When you're looking at any system, a smart choice architect asks these 4 simple questions. When the person who chooses is also the person who uses, pays, and profits, things are usually pretty straightforward. But in a system like, say, healthcare, these roles are split up between the patient, the doctor, the insurance company, and everything becomes a huge mess of conflicting incentives.
So, here's the absolute key point. It's not just about whether an incentive exists, it's about whether people actually notice it. That's what salience is. If an incentive is hidden away or hard to see, well, it might as well not even be there.
This is the perfect example. Your electric company might raise rates, but you only see that once a month on a bill with 100 other charges. But what if your thermostat showed you in real time that turning the AC down just 1 more degree is going to cost you an extra 50 cents per hour? That immediate, salient feedback makes the incentive pop, and it's way more likely to change your behavior right then and there.
So how do we pull all of this together? Well, the book gives us this fantastic mnemonic to remember all these principles: nudges. N is for incentives, but make sure they're visible. U is for understand mappings. Make the choice obvious. D is for defaults, because we love the path of least resistance. G is for give feedback. E is for expect error. And S is for structure complex choices. It's really the ultimate toolkit for any choice architect.
And here's the thing. Once you start to see the world through this lens of choice architecture, you really can't unsee it. From the way a grocery store is laid out to the design of a government form, you start noticing the nudges literally everywhere. And once you can see the architecture, you gain the power to navigate it more consciously and maybe even start designing better choices for yourself.